Chapter 16, verse 8. So they went out and fled from the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them, and they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. They said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. Let us pray. Great God, so often in our own life and experience, we experience fears and concerns. And it is because of your presence and your power alive and at work in us, we are able to face our concerns and our challenges with you amidst us. God, we pray even as we reflect on your word this morning, that you, O God, will fill us with your Holy Spirit, that you will bless us, that we will know, O God, that you are here with us, speaking words of comfort to us. So speak to me, O God, and speak to me. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, the Lord, strength and our Redeemer. Amen. My message this morning is entitled, The Power of God in Emptiness and Silence. The Power of God in Emptiness and silence. Emptiness and silence are not often recognized as effective means by which triumph can be achieved. And often, we believe that if any adversary is to vanquish, or any challenge is to be overcome, it must be done with a big bang, or with a show of strength. However, the ways of God in the world often runs counter to what we are used to. It often runs different to the way the world expectation goes. To achieve this purpose, God has a way of using the weak and the foolish and the absurd things of the world in order to show his mind. And when we read the Bible, we see numerous stories in which God turns upside down the ways and patterns of our world. Case in point is Mark's resurrection story taken from Mark chapter 16, verse 1 to 8. At the tomb on that Easter morn, we find no shouts of jubilation. We find no excitement. Instead, when the woman encountered the angel at the empty tomb and had been told that Jesus had been raised, they did not shout hallelujah. They didn't run to the disciples with the exciting news. No. According to Mark, they left the tomb in fear and in silence. If you don't believe me, let's look again at Mark's Gospel. Let's look at how Mark describes the events on that fateful day. The events of Good Friday had left the disciples of Jesus shattered and distraught. Because the Sabbath had intervened, there was no time to give Jesus a proper burial. And so, as soon as the Sabbath was over, Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Mary and two other women made their way to the tomb, carrying spices in order to honor their beloved friend with proper burial rites. On their way, they had become concerned about who removing the stone. But when they got there, we are told that they found that the stone had already been rolled back. These women are brave, they are persistent, but they were not prepared for what they had found inside the tomb. Namely, a young man dressed in white who told them that Jesus had been raised and that they were to go and break this good news to the rest of the disciples. Indeed, they did go, but instead of with excitement and jubilation, they left the tomb in fear and in silence. According to Mark, they said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. I mean, there's no hallelujah, there is no victory shout, there is no burst of triumphant excitement in the story. There is just silence. In fact, when I read Mark's account of the resurrection, two things stand out to me in this story. One is the emptiness of the tomb, and the second is the silence with which the women left. Doesn't sound very triumphant, you must admit. Yet, it is through these means that God has used to demonstrate his resurrected power. So this morning, I would like to invite us to reflect on Mark's story and see how he uses this emptiness and silence in order to demonstrate God's power in and through the resurrection. First, let us reflect on how God uses emptiness in this story. Like all the other Gospels, Mark reports that his tomb was empty on that Easter Sunday when the woman went to it. When the women had made their way to the grave with their spices to anoint the body of Jesus, they found that the tomb itself was disturbed. And to their surprise, they found that the body of Jesus was missing. In order to console them, the young man told them that Jesus, that they were looking for Jesus. He says, don't be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth who was crucified. He was raised. He is not here. This, brothers and sisters, recalls Sarah's action in Genesis chapter 18, where three men appeared to her and told her that she was going to have a child in her old age. At hearing that, Sarah laughed. Here in the story, the woman does not laugh, but one could bet that they were amused by hearing the news that Jesus' body was not present. You see, brothers and sisters, when the women made their way to the garden, they were going there to meet a dead body. They were going there to meet the corpse of Jesus. But when they came to anoint the body, they didn't meet anything. They expected to see Jesus' corpse, but when they got there, they found the tomb was empty. They found that there was nobody. They were crushed, they were sad, they were disappointed. I mean, if these women were to have their dreams fulfilled and their expectations met, it would have been by seeing the body of Jesus in the tomb. But here is the thing. Could you imagine what it would have meant if when they had gotten there, they had met Jesus' body wrapped up in the tomb? Can you imagine what would have happened if these women had found Jesus lying there on that Easter morning? I mean, if the woman had found the body of Jesus there, it would have meant that there was no resurrection. If they had found the body, it would have meant that there was no salvation for you and I. If they had met the body, it would have meant that the devil had won and God was defeated. But the fact that there was nobody in the grave meant that the price of sin had been paid. That God had took on man's greatest enemy and defeated it. Because there was nobody in the grave, it meant that sin and death had been defeated, that you and I can have peace with God. Yes, brothers and sisters, the proof that the angel offered the woman at the empty tomb was, he said, you are looking for Jesus, or if you are looking for Jesus at the tomb, you have come to the wrong place. To see Jesus, you need not to come to the tomb because the body is not here. Go to Galilee where he has gone ahead of you. I mean, the angel told the women not to come to the tomb, but go to Galilee and they will find the resurrected Jesus. I mean, why Galilee? What is so special about Galilee in Mark? You see, brothers and sisters, when we read the Gospel of Mark, we see that Galilee is the place where Jesus performed some of his most powerful roles. In fact, if you read Mark's Gospel, you will notice that every appearance of Jesus in Galilee is a resurrection appearance. It is in Galilee in chapter 2 that Jesus cures Peter's mother-in-law and raises her up. In the same chapter, Mark tells us that he takes a layman by the hand. He told him to take up your mat and walk. And the man was able to walk. In chapter 5, he raises up a little girl with the words, Talitha come. And in Mark chapter 9, he takes a little boy and heals him and raises him up. You see, brothers and sisters, when we go back to Galilee, we see that Jesus has been in the resurrection business all along. It is nothing new for him. Yes, brothers and sisters, Jesus is not in the tomb. The tomb is empty. And if we are looking for Jesus there, we will not find him. Because Jesus has moved on to more important matters. Not in the places of power, not in the temple, but in the margins of society, among the sick and the weak and the poor and the needy. If you want to see Jesus, don't go to the tomb. Go to Galilee, the places where people are experiencing fear and brokenness. Because God is a God who binds up the brokenhearted. God is a God who lifts up the fallen and fills the empty. Yes, brothers and sisters, God is the God who brings life out of barrenness, and the God who takes our emptiness and our failures and our unmet dreams and turns them into new opportunities. What emptiness are you experiencing today? Where is that emptiness in your experience? It is there that God speaks and brings you life. In Mark's resurrection story, the power of the resurrection is not only seen in emptiness, it is seen also in silence. And that is my second point about the story today. Although Jesus had repeatedly told the disciples that he was going to die and that he was going to be resurrected on the third day, it seems as though they did not believe. Because it didn't seem to enthuse when the young man at the tomb broke the news to them that Jesus was not there. They didn't exactly rush out from the tomb in excitement to tell the others the good news that they had heard. In fact, according to Mark, it seems as if they said nothing at all. He tells us that they left the empty tomb in fear and amazement and said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. I mean, where is the hallelujah he's risen? Where is the shouts of victory? Where is the excitement? Apparently, for Mark, there is none. In Mark's Gospel, the only reaction we get from the women at the tomb is silence. Nothing more. Is this the way, brothers and sisters, that this important story should come to a climax? Is this the way to end such a wonderful story about the resurrection of Jesus in silence? Can silence form an effective end to such a memorable event? Brothers and sisters, if you are disappointed with the end of this story, well, you are in good company. Because that is exactly how the people who compiled the gospel felt when they read Mark. And so they decided to add something to Mark's ending to make it a little bit more plausible and exciting, to bring it in line with the other gospel. The editor of the gospel felt that they were not satisfied with the way that Mark ends his story in silence. And some people debated as to whether something had happened to Mark when he was writing the story that he didn't complete it. Some people say that the end of Mark, the right ending of it, was lost. And so these scholars took Mark's Gospel and they added a shorter and a longer ending to it. If you read Mark's Gospel, you will see that those parts of the Gospel are bracketed up, which means that it was not there in the original story. So they added something to it to make it more appealing. Because Mark had ended this story in silence. Is that the way that Mark wanted to end? Maybe, perhaps, maybe silence was the way that Mark wanted to end the story. Who knows? Because you see, brothers and sisters, there is this thing about Mark's Gospel, and a man called William Reed writes about it, where he says that Mark uses what he calls a secret theory throughout his Gospel. This is events and moments where when Jesus performs a miracle, he tells people to keep silent, to keep quiet. For example, in Mark chapter 1, verse 32, after Jesus performed numerous exorcisms in the home of Peter, Mark adds, he would not permit the demons to speak because they knew him. Again, in chapter 5, verse 43, after Jesus has resurrected a little girl, Mark tells us that he strictly ordered them that no one should say anything about it. Again, in chapter 9, verse 9, when they were coming down from the Mount of Transfiguration where Jesus was transformed on the mountain, we are told that he ordered the disciples that no one should say what they had seen until he had been raised. But here is the irony in Mark's Gospel. Even though Jesus does bid the people silence, the good news about Jesus still went out. Even though he told them to be quiet, the good news about Jesus still spread like wildfire throughout the whole world. And that is where the silence and fear of these women comes in. Because the God who created this world out of nothing is the God who is able to use silence for his purpose and for his good. Remember the story of Elijah? When he asked to see the face of God, he was going through a very difficult time in his life. And God placed him in a cave and said that he was going to pass by. And Elijah heard a wind, and the wind was so fierce that it was splitting rocks. He heard earthquake and lightning and all kind of things, and he looked for God's presence in those things. But was God's presence here? Where was God's presence? God's presence was found in the still, small voice, in the silence. You see, friends, God don't always need to make a big bash to make a cause. He don't have to have a big hurrah to declare himself victorious. Often God works in silence. When God does not show up with a big bang or with a big bang we expect, when we don't hear the answer that we expect from God, when God seems to be silent amidst the injustices and evil that is present in our world, don't be dismayed, brothers and sisters, because God does God's greatest work in silence. Friends, Mark's resurrection story might not seem very appealing to its first readers. And to add a little more excitement and perhaps logic, the early editors thought that they needed to add something to it to make it more plausible. They thought that the story needed to be beefed up a little bit to make it look better. And you know, a lot of us do that sometimes. Sometimes we feel that the grace of God is too simple. So we need to nice it up to make it exciting and appealing to people. Sometimes we believe that everything in the Bible has to be understandable and everything has to follow a particular pattern in order for it to be relevant. And sometimes preachers are tempted to do a lot of gymnastics with the Bible and with the Word of God in order to make it look a little more attractive. Sometimes we think that we have to defend God, defend the Bible. But the truth is, brothers and sisters, God is capable of defending God's self. As we reflect on Mark's resurrection story today, brothers and sisters, we recall that this faith which we profess is not necessarily about logic, but it is a story about faith. And that God takes those things that sometimes we take for granted and uses them for His power and for His glory. In the case of Mark's resurrection story, God is working through the emptiness of life. And God is working in the midst of the silence. As we go through this week, brothers and sisters, know that the resurrected God is with you and working with you, even though His presence might be difficult to detect. Even though there might be silence, it doesn't mean that God is dead. Because it is the emptiness and the silence, it is in those things of life that God's power is most evident. We see it at work in Mark's gospel. And if you look carefully, you will see it at work